So we continue with our second TouchDesigner exercise with the use of 3D. So as usual, we tidy it up and create a new project folder like Play 3D 002, and then rename it and create and save. And similar to the last one, we obtain all the components for 3D in COMP with the geometry, and then camera, and then the light, and finally we use the top render to render it into 2D and then directly send to the output window. And similar to the last one, we remove the donut inside the geometry one, and instead we choose the input for SOP, and then pay attention to turn on the display and render button here. Okay, so the next step is we would like to create a rectangle. And for this rectangle, we would like to play the video. There's the video input, and we have a look of the default rectangle. Actually, it's a square, and we can convert it into a rectangular shape, like with the size in X is 1.6 and in Y is 0.9. So this is 16 to 9, that is the regular video composition, video aspect ratio that we want to have. And then we send it to the geometry. And similar to the last exercise, we also check the material form. And then in the geometry, in the render, we put this form one into the material, and we can also change the color. The default one is gray, so we can change it to like white for the material color. And if you use the 3D view to have a look, there's something like this in the 3D display. And to have a look of the rendered image, it is something like this, as a flat rectangle. And if you want to see the 3D view, so we can modify it a little bit in the geometry. In the transform, say we can rotate in the X direction like by -20°, and in the Y direction like 30° in the rotation. So we tilt the rectangle a little bit such that it appears to be a bit more three-dimensional in the display. Okay, and the next step we're going to do, as I mentioned, we would like to put our video on top of this rectangle as a 3D display surface. So in this case, we can first go back to the top with the video device in that pick up our video image. So the step to send the image to the 3D object is pretty straightforward. So we use something called the texture mapping. So we select the material, and in the RGB tab, that is the first tab for the material, one empty block around here is the color map. We can just drag this to color map and to copy this TOP, this texture, onto the 3D surface for texture mapping, and we'll then have this one display on top of your rectangular surface. And to animate, we can also try to make the geometry move. For example, we can make it rotate in a y-axis, and then to have a look at the effect. To make it move, we go back to chop to find an automatically generated sequence of number. So we'll use the beat. So the beat is something like the musical rhythm, like 1 2 1 2, and then in this case it's a number changing between 0 to 1 and go back again. So if we want to make use of it for rotation, so we can perform a mathematical calculation. So in the math, so the original range is 0 to 1, both for the from and to. So for the bit, we understand this is from 0 to 1. But for the rotation, usually if you want to have one full revolution, so this will be from 0 to 360. So that will be our target range for rotation. And for bit, we also have a way to change the period to make it slower. For example, if you push it towards the right hand side, it's 8. It's a little bit more slow. And if it's not slow enough, you can just type in your target value like 20 or 30 or even 40 to have a much slower speed of rotation. So now you have this changing number between 0 to 360. We can turn on the viewer active, select the geometry, locate the box that controls the rotation in y-axis, and then we can just drag it here, release and choose export chop. The whole frame of the video display on top of the rectangle will now rotate in the y-axis. And if you want to, you can put the camera closer to your rectangle, like 4. So have a bigger display of your rectangle like this. So this is one effect that we can achieve by mapping your video display on top of a rotating 3D object. And if you want to have more fun, you can also insert another operator between your rectangle and the geometry. For example, we can select the link and do an insert operator. And from the SOP, there's one called noise that we can play around with. And with the noise, so the rectangle will turn into some moving objects that change according to the noise. And with this one, you can go back to your output window. So now there's two movements. One is the noise, the other will be the rotation in the y-axis. And as usual, you can go out of the project one in the perform window, make a full screen, do without the borders, and then we will have our final output like this.